Hi guys. Let's see. Let's make sure I'm completely ready. I'm not actually completely ready, but we're gonna roll with it. This is the Gimbal and Iron show. Yet another week where we're getting things together the last minute, but we're gonna make it work. We actually have a really cool guest today. We have. I hope I get his name right. I'm probably gonna mess this up. It's Xavier Don. Don.
Dawn. You got the
Don.
hard bit. You got the hard bit right, and then the easy bit wrong.
All right. Well, I can. I think I can go with you. I can at least. I can use your first name anyway, so it'll be okay. Um,
All right.
Xavier is, among other things, you're a competitor. I mean, a competitor, a commentator for Quake Live, and you've done a little bit of Shoot Mania. And give us an introduction, maybe a little more in-depth introduction about exactly who you are and how you got into Quake.
How I got into well, I'm Xavier Dawn. People online probably know me as Zoot. I've been part of the Quake Live community for some time now, since it was at the end of its closed beta phase. In the last just 14 months, I've been doing commentary, so quite a short lifespan on that. I'm also a student at the University of Portsmouth studying international business, and in my spare time, I look at computer screens lots and lots and lots because I really like it.
I think that's something we
Was that
share in
all right?
common.
I didn't plan it.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. And see, now you've now connected
Excellent.
with everybody because everyone else, I'm sure, watching also loves to look at computer screens.
Good.
Hence why we're all here.
Excellent.
So it's a good start. Sorry, guys. I normally I'm a little more prepared. I mean, I'm ready. I just
It's got serious.
got together at the last minute here. Um, Xavier, one of the ways we normally start off the show is to sort of ask people to step back from where they are right now and take us back to when they first started gaming. Because there's usually a
hmm
game or a couple games that stand out for people who are, who love gaming that sort of first hook them. And I'm curious what that game was for you.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of games that I kind of experienced or saw or went through. I mean, one of the first ones I remember Doom, the first Doom I
Mm,
saw. I never really played it, but I remember seeing someone playing it and watching him play it for hours. I was very young at the time.
right.
Other games, I was big into the Super Mario, Donkey Kong, and all the little Nintendo things. But whenever I got a chance to use a PC, it was either something by id Software, or it was either Worms, United and Reinforcements, or Warcraft 1. So I didn't really get the sense of any kind of community sort of force or power at all, though, until I started playing MMORPGs, because I didn't really have access to internet until I was 10, so in 19, no, 1999, so I guess the same year Quake 3 came out, but
Mm.
my computer couldn't run Quake 3, so I ran Ultima Online,
Ah,
and that's kind of that's kind of where I got the whole, I don't know, I got the spirit for community-driven games, and as soon as I had, the computer power, I was into Quake as quick as I could be. But
well,
I think I covered everything.
yeah. Well, you're talking about community and that community the drive of community or the appeal, sorry, the appeal of based games.
Hmm.
Um, but what was it about? Was it just that Quake was the first one that you found that was really community driven? Was there something special about
Um,
Quake itself?
well, Ultima Online, when I joined that, it's when I really realized the sort of the power that the internet held, that what the potential, what the opportunities, maybe, the kind of the dreams you have when you're in your, well, before you're even in your teens. And as soon as when I got to Quake again, I was just loaded up. I was like, yes, I finally got my own personal computer that I can use. It's all for me. And I found my Quake 3 Arena CD that I had for years, it had gathered dust. I loaded up. I was like, I want to play some multiplayer right now. And little did I know, when I joined this multiplayer server, it was for some Quake 3 mod, which is very much smaller compared to, say, OSP, CPMA, and others. It was Excessive Plus. It was a tight-knit community. I could immediately see the sort of the friendship circles that lurked. I could see the camaraderie that was between each of the players and teams, and the competitive spirit that was also there. So in a way, it's like I saw a miniature sort of mainstream Quake 3, if that makes any sense. So I mean, it was really then that I was drawn to Quake. but at the same time, um, I would also play a bit of World of Warcraft and stuff because there was just something in my heart when I was young and most sort of absorb and to influence.
Yeah.
Basically, Blizzard and id Software were my heroes basically. So those were the two. It's difficult to get rid of that, I think,
Right.
personally. But yeah.
So one of the things I'm curious about, sort of jumping forward a little, is it's obvious that Quake has been in your life for a really long time, um, but the average gamer, and I'm not trying to imply that you are, but I think the average casual gamer uh, these days tends to look at graphics as being, like the big thing. It's got to look
Yeah.
good. It's got to. So when Quake
Hmm.
Live starts up, semi recently, what was it? What is it that drew you back into that? Given that it's not, super flashy. It's not. I mean, what is it? Is it that you played Quake before and you loved the community and wanted to continue that?
It's just the game itself. The game is so powerful. It's just such a solid game, and it's very clear the different kind of skills you need for it, and the lines that you draw between them. And you kind of know that you need a lot to be the best. And the fact that it's so difficult to become the best drives you to playing it even more. Um, but I think it's because there's sort of two ages or two generations of gamers. You have the gamers who discovered the internet fairly early on. They might have, I don't know, a sibling or a relative or someone who was into computer programming and computer science, and they had access to all these tools, which maybe a lot of people weren't so bothered about back in the mid 90s. And I think those people there, they kind of understood maybe the core elements of what makes a game really amazing. And I think people now, they're more drawn to, I think a little more susceptible to those companies with huge amounts of money that are able to, you know, are able to advertise their product on TV. So, but those people aren't really part of the community spirit. So it's all in like divisions and or divides of uh, different people.
Right.
So I mean, Quake Live, I think definitely the game drew to me, the spectator value it holds, the history it holds. This is the general legacy. Um, yeah, I think for me, graphics are definitely not the biggest thing in a game, and uh, I don't think graphics will be the biggest things that there are in games because there's only so much you can impress with that. How can you make graphics equal fun?
Right.
I
No,
think
that's a good point.
yeah.
It's a really excellent point.
So.
Well, can I ask you? I know this is going to be sort of obvious to you, but for maybe someone like myself who has a passing understanding of Quake, is seeing, I've watched some of your commentary, I've seen some other tournaments, and sort of gotten a basic understanding of Quake and the skills involved. But can you help me get at a little more explicitly, a little more concretely, what makes Quake so successful as a competitive game? What makes it so hard to be the best, and so easy to tell a really good player
Uh,
from a bad player?
it's difficult because there's so many things. But I mean, you have then again a lot of it on Quake. If you want to be great, you've got to have the setup. You've got to have the hardware. You need
Mm.
a good mouse and mouse that you're comfortable with. Keyboard maybe not so necessary to have the best one, but as long as it's comfortable, it's cool. Then you need a good sound peripheral so you can pick up the sound cues well. You don't want too much bass. You need a good amount of treble. Then you need, I mean, 120 hertz monitor is where they flourish in Quake because it makes the game so much more beautiful. And then of course you need a computer that doesn't get FPS drops and the like. So those are the kind of the immediate ingredients you need to. So if you've got all that, then great. You're in a good position to start Quake and play pretty good from maybe the beginning. And then you need a good configuration. So these are the things that are outside the player that will affect his game.
Right.
And then for the player himself, it's you have to have a drive. There has to be something in you which you're playing for yourself and you're not really. You get a lot of players who they might blame their losses on what the other player had done rather than what they hadn't done. So someone who's very self-critical, I think, would be more successful. But then you also need the core elements like timing. You need to be able to time the items. You need to have aim, which is obviously a lot easier when you have the equipment. You need to have awareness of what's going on around you, the map knowledge. You need to know all the different routes. There's you need to know the opponents as well, and individually you need to know them when you're at the highest of levels. So there's really, I think, in Quake, and I think a lot of people would agree that Quake is definitely, one of the top games there is, and probably in terms of FPS games, I'd say the top FPS game in terms of skill required to play.
I want to.
CS also is pretty intense.
Right. Yes. I actually want to follow up on that in just a second, the previous comment you made, but I want to say real quick, one, I know there's people talking about sound being too low. Let me sort of keep us informed, and if I can, I'll try and adjust some stuff, and we'll see if
Sure.
Xavier can do that as well to make sure you guys can hear us correctly. I was sort of scoot back from the mic, so I'll make sure I'm up here. The other thing is if you have questions, we're about a fourth way into the show. At the end of the first half an hour, so about 15 minutes, we'll ask the first set of questions. So go ahead and put them in there, and we'll try and get to them before we take a quick break. And at the end of the hour, we'll also do questions. So if your question doesn't get asked in the first half, there's still a chance. But Xavier, I wanted to ask you about. I mean, probably this is going to seem like sort of silly questions, but as someone who keeps hearing how sees Quake and thinks, wow, that's really like the players who are doing this are really fucking incredible, and then seeing that the community seems to be fairly small, and that not necessarily a bad thing, but sort of relatively speaking, the popularity among the general populace seems to be much more for like Call of Duty or games like that. I'm still trying to get at sort of why is it that that popularity is there, and then also what are the differences that you see? Because you're a Quake player, you're a Quake commentator. Why is it that Quake for you is the superior game? Like, what separates those two classes?
Well, to your first point of why people might see Quake Live from people who have never played Quake before and realize, oh, the community's small, maybe we'll go somewhere else, despite thinking the game's awesome. I mean, Quake and its software, the way they've kind of controlled it is, I mean, I'll make an analogy. So you have iPhone, who came, or the Apple Mac, and they made the iPhone.
Yeah.
Then all the companies, they decided, right, we're going to also make smartphones with touchscreens and all these accessories. Its software with Quake Live is a bit like the company, like Nokia, that didn't really come in and do what all the other companies by making all these features that incentivize competition and driving people. They didn't make these features that make it easier to maybe talk about it. Just these things that can help new players get along. There's lots of new games. They have these tool tips at the bottom. Say, have you tried, I don't know, zooming in or changing your sensitivity? And I think if things like that in Quake existed, then you would be able to, it would be a lot more sustainable. You'd be able to keep those players in. What did you ask?
Well, I guess the other thing I was asking is sort of what separates a game like Quake and the skill required to play Quake from a game like Call of Duty or Gears of War or Halo.
Well, it's the thing, like with Quake, you have these players who have played it since the beginning. So since the beginning of Quake 3, some of them from 1999, some of them from Quake 2, Quake World, people who come from Quake 4. And these people are always going to be at the top of the food chain, because when a new player comes in, it's very difficult to think that difficult to imagine that they could beat these old school players. And I think now that the game has become old and the gameplay, despite it being amazing, it's really just beneficial for the guys who have been playing the longest. So I think if there's going to be another fast-paced, skillful FPS, it needs to be something that, the guys at the top of Quake either have to be working really hard to stay at the top, or it's going to have to give something to players from other FPS games, the ability to get to the top. So it's gonna be too repetitive, in history to see the same names there, especially if it's like it has been recently in Quake, where people are staying at the top and they're only practicing maybe a fifth of the time that other players are because they've been there so long.
Okay, so I was going to ask about that. So I was going to ask about the current scene of Quake, and if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like it's sort of become stagnant. Is that what you're saying? That there's not that much changeover, not many new stories arising?
I mean, there are stories of lots of up and coming people who are, piercing the sort of bracket of the top people and the people who are challenging and occasionally causing upsets.
Right.
But also the stories happen from within the people who are within the group of people who have been at the top for ages. But yeah, in terms of new names who are coming along and winning LAN tournaments, it's been the same for a while now, and it looks like it's difficult for it to change unless people are really putting in so many hours in. I think part of it is also people might not have the right training techniques or something, or that's just kind of like on the side. We
Okay.
can push that
Sure.
away maybe.
Sure.
But
Interesting.
no, it's very difficult when a game is so old for someone who's new to the game to be as good as the guys who are the old people, like people like Cooler, who's recently retired. He's always at the top, and for the last couple of tournaments, he may not have practiced until a week before it, and other people would be practicing 2-3 months ahead, and he would still come along and place top 3 or something. And it's those guys will always be the best, whether you like it or not.
Right.
I don't mind it. I think it's great, the stories they hold. Sorry, I'll.
Oh no, no, please. Can I? Well, so can I ask you about that? Sort of expanding about that, or expanding on that. You don't find it gets repetitive or boring when you have these top players who consistently, time and time and time and time again, just seem to never lose the edge.
I think as long as there's always a handful of people competing for the top place, that's good. At the moment, it's been Rafa and Cypher who have been contending, and recently Dahang caused an upset with Rafa. But it's something where you need more than 2 people always competing for the same thing, and I want there to be a more equilibrium along the top pros, which I think is actually happening at the moment. I think now I felt more than the last. Well, some time that there are people who are making that effort and who want to do that, and I think it's on the road to recovery. Like the last 6 months has been really just Rafa, Cypher, and now it's kind of moving on to actually Dahang is getting really good, and then you've got Avek's been around. Sadly, he wasn't able to make DreamHack, and various other players. If Strengths, I believe, is going to be coming back. You've always got a handful of pros at your disposal. And then you got lots of the Russian, like getting the Russians into the scene is such a huge thing at the moment for Quake as well. At the Adroit Slam that's happening in October, if that happens, and there's still a lot of exciting things to happen, but they need to continue getting exciting rather than staying the same.
Well, can I ask you sort of about excitement? I figure being a commentator, communicating that excitement is a big part of it. Can I ask you? Can we sort of turn to your commentating right now and your commentary?
Yeah.
And can I ask you sort of how you first got interested in commentary?
That's a good question. A really good question. I think, yeah, as I said earlier in the interview, about 14 months ago I started casting, give or take a month. And I was, before I started, I just said to a friend, I think I was watching some stream where there wasn't really any sort of, I can't remember what stream I was watching now, but there wasn't any sort of proper caster who was like, right, I'm here and I'm going to be staying here for a while. There was Level Up TV, but they were focusing on TDM.
Right.
And I was more interested in other game types, and it was recently Too Good and Joe Miller said, right, we're going to move on to new things. And I was watching stream, and I said to my friend, hey, I think I'd like to give out casting a go. And I kind of said I never really thought that something was going to happen. I never thought, I didn't thought I'd even get the opportunity. It was more of a just like, a what if kind of moment. You kind of just ponder for a second and imagine. And about a week later, someone contacts me and says, hey, we've got a CTF game. Do you want to cast it? And I was like, what? Okay, maybe. And so I got onto a stream. I think NVC streamed for me, and I casted this game on my own. And at the end, I was like, wow, I did it so badly. It was absolutely horrible. I'm going to have to do it again because I need to know that I'm not this bad at it. And I think it's been a constant race with myself to say, right, I swear I'm not terrible at this. I swear I'm not terrible. I think that's part of the drive because I like to just, if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best. I want to be amazing at it.
Right.
I'm not going to do something half-assed. And Yeah, so that was the beginning. Just a what if question, and my friend for some reason deciding to contact people. I think that was Dan5. I don't know if he'd be watching, but yeah. So
So
that's where it started.
the whole thing started because you mentioned it in passing to a friend, and then did your first cast, thought it was terrible, and decided that couldn't be the last cast you ever did. You
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
prove to yourself that you were better, and you've been doing it ever since.
I like to think so.
That's awesome. Oh, it's a fantastic reason to keep going. Well, tell me again, because and I think it's pretty obvious to anyone watching that I'm a very much an amateur Quake watcher. Definitely not even an amateur player. I'm so
Yeah,
terrible.
fair.
I've played a couple games like Instantly Slash, but I'd like to know um, how you prepare for a cast, how you prepare for a
How I
match.
prepare.
Yeah.
Oh. Um.
Is there anything in particular you do?
Any kind of ritual or anything?
Well, maybe like do you sort of go back and watch old casts you've done with certain players, or go? I mean, like, how do you,
I
if you
f- I
what is
find it really difficult to watch myself. Sometimes I'll watch a VOD, but I won't. I watch it just because I thought the game was awesome, and then at the same time I'll kind of criticize myself. But I find it difficult to openly watch myself and criticize. I kind of criticize myself by remembering how I sounded, and by also other people telling me what I sounded like. But as for what I do before it, I just make sure I know. I want to be exactly certain of all the facts. So I need to know who's playing. I need to know where this players come from. If it's a team game, I need to know the team. I need to know all the players on the team. I'll have all my social media for esports open,
right?
and then for the first maybe 15 minutes before, and then 5 minutes before, I'll close down, and I'll just be sort of sitting and waiting almost. I'm just be
Hmm.
imagining, okay, how can I introduce myself? I'll maybe think of a few sort of synonyms for words or something, or I'll think of some metaphors I could possibly use to describe situations. And uh, I try to broaden my vocabulary a bit
Right.
before streams, but it's barely noticeable in a small scale. So I'm kind of boring. I don't have really a good ritual or anything. I kind of tap the floor twice and spin around and yeah.
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be, crazy or ridiculous. It just, I am sort of curious how you get yourself ready to go into a cast like that. Uh, but sort of along those lines, when you are doing a cast, when you're actually in the moment, one, I want to know how it feels, but also two, I'm sort of curious what you want the audience to take away, what you're trying to communicate to the audience
Hmm.
through your casts.
I like to show people that I love what I'm doing and I love what the games I'm casting. I think it's very important. If a viewer watches you and thinks, "Wow, this guy doesn't even like the game that he's casting," it's not exactly inspiring to the player, to the viewer to play that game, and that's kind of what you want them to do in the first place. Um, I want them to enjoy the best moments as best as they can. So when there's an amazing frag between two players, one was flying through the air and suddenly a rocket will stop him dead in the air, something like that. I want to bring that really is something incredible, and I want the people seeing that to realize, whoa, that was awesome, extremely difficult to pull off, and just great fun. And it's a kind of a reason to play Quake so that you can get these moments where it's something you don't really get in other games, and yeah, I do want them just feeling better about Quake after they finish watching me,
Hmm.
basically. Because there's a lot of negative vibes about Quake sometimes. Like people are constantly saying, "Oh, Quake is dying," and it's something people have said for a long time now. And it kind of went refreshed when Quake Live came around, and then people have gone back to saying it again. And I want people to say, "No, Quake is still awesome. No, keep watching it, and I'll be around as long as I can feasibly do that." So.
Well, I think a lot of people already appreciate it, and hopefully many more will too. Um, I had a question. I had a good question, and it completely slipped my mind. Um, Shoot, obviously it was about Quake. It was about commentating. Um, oh my goodness. Well, tell us. Shoot, I can't think of it. I'm just gonna go on. I know it was a
That's all right.
question sort of related to you and your experiences. I guess for now I'll just ask you to talk to us, or tell us your favorite story in Quake, or the best moment you've had casting. if those are different.
Um, my favorite story in Quake. I don't. When I was watching it, there was the times when I was watching Quake Live TV, the American stream. I think there was Jahar, Grease Scotsman, maybe DJ was there, amongst a number of other people, among a number of other people. And I remember EG, this because I loved CTF. EG would always dominate Fnatic. They'd always dominate everyone in CTF. There was a team with Dahang, Clamp, ID, and Viju or someone. And I think the best moment for me is when I saw the phone men beating them on stream, because I didn't really know the players as well as I knew the EG players, but because I always support underdogs, for me it was one of the most awesome spectator experiences, and it was a VOD that I always sort of looked back on and I shared with friends who weren't so interested in Quake but could still appreciate the sport. But with casting, my best moment, I guess. I mean, this year was the first year I went to LAN events, and when I went to DreamHack and QuakeCon, those two events, when you're casting the finals, even though it's a lot more nerve-wracking because you've got the actual audience who's around you, the fact that you can actually hear those cheers and stuff. So when you're hyping a tense moment, and you can actually hear people who are supporting, their player or their person in the fight. And when you hear that kind of passion from the supporters, you realize, okay, this is when me and the supporters are connecting, because we are both sharing something in this moment. And I think for me, yeah, those are like the best moments for me.
I remember the question I was going to ask you. It came back to me also because it was on the cheat. That helps. I cheated. So a little introspection. I'm sort of curious, reflecting on your own commentary, what do you feel like your real strength is? Something that comes really easily to you when you're commentating, but also something that you find really difficult?
Well, for me, it's difficult because I haven't actually played the game at such a level where I could give all these professional insights into what players are thinking.
Right.
And it's something I've been working on. I mean, I'm not a bad player, but I'm also not one of the top ones. So I kind of have to. I'm still having to show people on the stream now, look, guys, I can actually play this game. Please give me some credibility. But also some things about my cast. I mean, sometimes I repeat myself, which really annoys me. That's when you realize you said the same word 4 times and you just realize it was that word.
Yes.
That really. I know a lot of people. Well, one of the biggest comments on stream chat is about my laugh. People aren't overly fond of it, but some people I think are kind of like guilty pleasure. They love it. They hate to love it.
Love to hate it?
Love to hate it.
Yeah.
Or both. One or the other.
Or both. All right. All right.
But my good sides, I think I'm good. I mean, I know each cast I do is separate to one another, and I don't always get the best of myself in all my casts. But I feel like on the day, like when it really matters, when it's a big event, when it's a finals, when it's something, I like to think that I'm good at bringing that excitement. And when there's a tense moment and when there's sudden conflict, and this is a decisive moment, this could determine who is going to be the victor of the map or the match. I'd like to think that I'm good at that play-by-play sort of role.
And what is it that moving forward is? I mean, you talked about some of the things. You talked about being able to bring that hype and really being able to bring it in tough situations. And you also talked about sort of struggling in repeating words and things like that. Looking forward in your commentary, is there one thing in particular that you're really trying to work on that you wanna improve upon, or is it sort of just generally getting better?
I just feel like I need more experience. As I said, now I'm going to repeat myself again. As I've been casting for only about just over a year, I think I've almost done too much for the amount of time I've been casting, because I've been to the LAN events now, and less than a year before I started casting, actually less than a week before I started casting, those LAN events were kind of what I dreamt of doing, or going to, not even casting, just being able to go there and watch or play. And so suddenly I'm feeling like, wow, I will be happy now if I can stay on the same level till I finish university, with gradual progression. and just gaining that experience because I know in a year's time I'm going to be twice the caster I am now, because I just need that time under the belt to put me in a better position, I think.
Right. Um, Disclaimer, real quick: if anyone sees me making funny faces at really odd times, it's because I probably read something in chat and I'm snickering because it's super silly. Um, But also, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in chat, and we'll get them asked probably in about 5-10 minutes. But I do so to wrap up this first half. I know there's been a lot of talk lately about Shoot Mania. A lot of people looking at Shoot Mania as the next big competitive FPS that could go big, and I know that you've had a chance to cast some. So I was hoping to get your thoughts on Shoot Mania and your thoughts on where it fits into the competitive FPS scene, or could.
Shoot Mania. Well, I played it just before it went into its open beta. It was basically when they were changing things around, and then suddenly I was getting dragged off with QuakeCon and DreamHack, and I had no time. But for me, Shoot Mania is something really good because it's got developers that that really care and that really put the time in as well to make sure that they'll if they see something's wrong, something major is wrong, they'll fix it within half an hour or something. They're very quick on picking up faults and correcting themselves. And I think that's definitely one good element to making a successful FPS title. But I also think they might need to freshen things up a bit, because the competitive game mode they have at the moment, 3v3, I don't think it's something sustainable on a high level. I mean, they're throwing money at them at the moment because it's competitive, it's FPS, it's fresh, it's original. But I think if it's going to last, if it's going to start gaining a history for itself like Quake did, like StarCraft did, like various other games, then it's going to need to have something else as well to it that just gives it that bit more depth, that more dynamic, and draws players to staying with it. So, I mean, with Quake, I can't comment on the other game, but with Quake, for me, what I found is I could just sit in a server all day because it was just so fun to move around the map and stuff. The movement, the physics in the game were just incredible, and there isn't something like that just will make a player sit in a server all day until someone joins, like in Shoot Mania. And I would happily I definitely have done for many hours, just sit in the server on Quake, and I didn't get that same kind of awe-inspiring feeling that I got on Shoot Mania, that I got on Quake with Shoot Mania.
Right.
But I think Shoot Mania is going to be around, and I think it's good, and I think it's a positive thing for Shoot Mania to be around. It's going to help FPS because it's drawing more people to FPS, and people realize, oh, actually, I really like shooting things. What else? I know, I want to shoot some more things. Hang on, I might go to this game. So I think even though it might take immediately some players away from Quake, and Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, or whatever, I think it's going to give something back to it over the long run as well. So.
Well, you mentioned the movement, the physics of Quake, and how that was sort of add that you were looking for. Do you have something in mind for Shoot Mania that you would like to see that you think would add depth?
No, I try thinking about it, but for me it's very hard. And as much as being a game developer would be great, I don't think I'm cut out for it. And I think I'm going to leave that to the pro gamers who have had those the long years in playing games at a very high level. I think I want to leave it to them to decide what is best for it, and I don't think I could justify my my thoughts on that, because I don't really have any good ideas. So I'm kind of crap. Don't even listen to
me. You're humble. You're humble. That's not crap. Humble and thoughtful is very different from crap. Well, I'm also sort of curious where you'd like to see. Well, this is sort of an obvious question, but aside from just bigger numbers, more tournaments, more money, where would you like to see Quake Live go? Where would you like to see the professional scene head in the future?
I would like to see, obviously, more lands, and I would like to see more viewing figures. I think I saw a Too Good interview recently saying, someone was commenting, I think the interviewer was saying, could Quake be more of a spectator sport rather than a player sport? And I think, if Quake could be something, the money was thrown at it. But since there was still maybe a small community, but a huge community of spectators, if I could see something like that, that would be very interesting. But I also don't think it's very realistic, because you'd also need to throw a lot of resources at it. And for me, I'd like to see either id Software do something with Quake Live where they freshen up all the the website and make it look all sparkly and nice, and they give lots of features that incentivize newer players to stay with the game, and giving help, because at the moment a player is like, what's a config and stuff, and all these questions that are so difficult to answer unless you have all sort of maybe tooltips and things like that. I want to see Quake becoming a lot more player friendly before it starts dying, make their pro players satisfied.
A perfect answer. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet that you wanna talk about? You wanna have a go at?
Well, as we're talking about Shoot Mania, I should say that I really like the game type. I think because it's full of clutch moments, that's really good. I don't think they should get rid of that. That was basically what I had to add to the Shoot Mania bit. Just that I do approve, but I demand more. I'm being greedy.
So you're talking about the 3v3. There are a lot of clutch moments in the 3v3, but it's not. You still don't see that. Even with the clutch moments, those are good, but you're saying there's still something lacking to give it any sort of real longevity.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's I think I've covered everything I want to do.
All right. Well, Sean ZA says he heard you casted the most successful online Shoot Mania tournament ever, according to viewer numbers. Is that true? Is that correct?
I don't know. Is that? I'm not actually sure, because he actually runs the channel that I was commentating that game on, that cup on, but he's trolling a little bit. But I don't know what the other viewing figures for other Shoot Mania cups are.
We'll say it was the biggest. It's okay.
He says yes.
He says yes. So. That's enough for me. It's on the internet. It's got to be true.
Maybe I did. That's the current. I should be put in I don't know, in a trophy cabinet or something.
Yes. We'll send you to Sean ZA. He can put you in a trophy cabinet with it can say something like casted the most successful Shoot Mania tournament ever.
Oh yes, he's got all the stats there. So
that is really impressive. Average apparently for other tournaments, Sean's saying, is around 200, and the peak of his tournament was about 900. That's nice job, sir. Both to Sean and to you. Well done. Well, can I ask you sort of as a closing for this first half? Do you plan to try and get back and do some more Shoot Mania casting and balance both Quake and Shoot Mania, or focus mainly on Quake, or do you not really know yet?
It's still up in the air for me. I want to go back to Shoot Mania and do something, and I hope that during the time that I missed from it, my opportunity hasn't disappeared, because that would annoy me. But the thing is, for me, at the moment, I'm having an argument between time, basically. I really hate time. It's something that I often have arguments with, and I just don't have enough of it right now to do all the games I want to do. But I'm going to try and cast. I'm going to stick with Quake, because there's some kind of connection I have with it that I don't get anywhere else. Right. And it really gives me that it really satisfies me more than any other game at the moment. But I also want to move out into Shoot Mania. There are other games as well that I've seen that I'm interested in, like Warsaw. It used to be a Quake 3 mod, and now it's on its own platform. Wow. That's also pretty cool. There's another game, Offensive Combat, which is quite a hilarious game, which you can't take too seriously, but it's also kind of fun at the same time. Other games. There's going to be Painkiller as well. I mean, I am going to find time for Shoot Mania and those games as well as Quake Live. It's just a matter of when.
It's just a matter of when. Fair enough. Well, I guess I assume you'll let us know on your Twitter.
Yeah.
When you're. Well, you want to plue it now? We'll plug it again at the end as well.
Okay,
want to follow you.
Twitter.com/ZootLive and ZootLive. just in case, just to draw there. And yeah, and I'm on my, it's the same as my Twitch page. It's twitch.tv/ZootLive. So that's kind of where my home grounds are at the moment.
Perfect. Well, that's a perfect way, I think, for us, or fantastic. See, I did it again. I said perfect twice. It's a fantastic way for us to end the first half. You guys can go check out his channel and go look at some of the VODs. He's also got, YouTube. Go give that a look while we take a quick 2 or 3 minute break. When we come back, we'll talk to Xavier about himself, about what he does as a student, what he's studying, what his plans are for the future, and sort of how competitive gaming is going to fit in, or how he sees it fitting in. So we'll talk to you guys in 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. Hey guys, and welcome back. For some reason, my stream is really far behind, so hopefully it's all going to work out here on this end. But Xavier and I were talking just about what were we talking? We were talking about sort of just expanding upon the idea of the player reward system and how that's really crucial to retaining players, and what that could do for Quake. So the potential that still has. It's interesting. Something we'd like to see. Maybe, you never know, an early Christmas present. Website will be redone. You never know. Maybe we can wish.
I really hope, in the deepest of senses, I really want something like that to happen, because I think it would help so much. But yeah, I won't touch on it for too long. But
well,
it has touches an emotional nerve, so I want it. I need it.
Well, maybe we'll see it. I mean, I guess so. Just really to maybe close out the conversation. The other question I have is, do you see any other way forward for Quake to really expand the player base significantly, the influx of new players, I mean, if they don't have a reward system? Is there another way you see the Quake Live forward?
Like, the only type of thing you can get there is if you have a successful LAN event, something where Quake is highlighted at, and then at the finals, 2 players, whether they've heard of them or not, whether it's with Cypher and Raffle or anyone, if they offer the most exciting best-of-5 match you've ever seen in front of, I don't know, I think at DreamHack there's 25,000 people or so watching it. If you can do that and you deliver an insane match, then yeah, that kind of thing can draw in lots of players very quickly. But it might not keep them, but it will definitely, there'll be a surge in activity.
Right.
But I think when you see 3-0 wins and stuff, it's not the most inspiring thing. It's like, it was okay. When you've watched something and thought it was brilliant, then you're obviously going to think a lot more of it.
Yep.
So, for me, that's the only kind of thing, really.
Interesting. Well, there you go. Well, I want to talk to you, sort of move away from the gaming for just a little bit, and ask you about yourself. You're a college student or university student. What do you study? What do you study as a university student?
I do international business, which is international and good for esports. So.
Well, how did you decide to pursue international business with esports in your mind already, or that just sort of happened?
I mean, I like traveling as well, and I always liked the idea of traveling with my work. But when I got into esports as well, I actually realized I'm actually a part of this as well. I'm a part of this now. Then I thought, actually, yeah, I'm really glad I picked international business. It was more like something that made me just secured my decision and made me think that this is the right thing to do.
So is that the original reason, was because you really like to travel and wanted to travel with your work?
Yeah. And I've traveled a lot this year because of esports. So
because of esports,
really good.
There you go. Other kind of work. Well, how's it been? I know nothing about international business. How has the classes been? Are you still happy with the decision?
Well, I've just finished my first year, so I mean, I've still got another 3 years to go technically. But no, it's fine. It's just learning the core principles, like what is marketing, what is finance, what is contract law, and other things that are core to business. But no, it's been as expected so far. I've enjoyed it. There's been times where I have to work in teams, which I dread a little bit. But I like working in teams so much more with people in esports, but for some reason at university it's just not my thing. But no, it's been what I hoped for, and because this course is actually basically sending me to Prague in next month to
Wow.
study for 3 months. So I like that. That's also it. So I got to part of the arrangement of being on my course was I got to study abroad for 3 to 4 months, and I also get an industrial placement, so I get to potentially work abroad as well for another year. So I thought, well, why, it's going to make me extremely employable if I come out of university saying I've studied in 2 places in university, I've worked here for a year, I have lots and lots of experience, give me a job. So I basically wanted to make myself very employable afterwards, and I think this has given me the best opportunity.
Smart. Well, where would you like to work? Maybe both ideal and then realistic expectations.
Do, nothing's unrealistic.
Touche.
um,
Touche.
no, I jest. But I think I mean, I saw that my university was getting applications from Intel and companies like that. I thought any company that kind of plays around with computers and that kind of area, I'd be very happy to work for. But then again, esports is slowly consuming more and more of my time. And I'm thinking, you know what, now all my degrees are almost getting in the way of the fun I'm having in esports. But to me, it's still my major priority. It's something I need to get done. I just need to get it out of the way. I need to get it sorted. And then I can focus on what I want to do. But as for whether or not I'm going to, do a professional career and do esports in the evenings, it totally depends on the opportunities that come up for me. As long as I get my degree and the experience along the way, then I'm delighted.
Cool. So sort of take it as it comes.
Yeah. I'm now go with the flow to an extent, but I also don't want to I don't want to outreach myself. I don't want to start looking for things in esports and then turning my back on this small shadow behind me, going, "Oh crap, university! I forgot about you," and have to move back to it.
Right.
I'm really forcing myself to be focused over the next year of my course, and I think I've got time for both, and I hope I can excel in both.
Over this past year, is that balance, did it really become a problem for you, or is it something that just sort of started to become, or you noticed?
Well, at the beginning of the year, so like last September,
Yeah.
it was new for me. I was going to university. I was moving to the other side of the country, so I kind of took sort of 2.5, 3 months off casting. Um, I was, I think I was here and there, but it was so infrequent that you couldn't really count on me.
Sure.
And I actually got really good marks in that semester or that year or that part of the year in university. And then the second part, I was starting to go to LAN events, starting to talk to lots of people, um, and my grades. I mean, I had some high grades still, but then the ones that I you know would have forced myself to do the semester before, and then kind of dreaded instead, I only just scraped by really.
Right.
So I mean, I could tell there was a difference, but I think I can manage my time better, and I can do better than I did last year.
While adding on finding time for all these additional games you were mentioning earlier, it's a tall order. Because you
Yeah,
mentioned,
it's pretty. And I've also, I've also got a girlfriend at the moment as well, and she's also trying to like, don't forget about me. And I'm
oh,
like, oh, God, I want to spend time with everything there, but I honestly, it kills me. I've recently, like when I was younger, I was like, oh, there's loads of time to do anything. I don't need to worry. At the moment, I can just sit down and you know binge drink with my friends. And now I'm like, okay, I need to calculate everything because there is a possible chance I could lose time, and when I should be doing something, I'm doing something else. And now I'm kind of cherishing time a lot more, and
right.
I, yeah, I'm kind of just crossing my fingers about the whole having time for things.
Well, pro tip: if you don't sleep, you save a lot of time.
I'm not very good at that though. I need that.
You need to sleep.
I used to when I was gaming when I was younger because I was playing on my mum's computer.
Yeah.
Um, I was playing at the time. I think it was Dark Age of Camelot. I don't know if you heard of it.
Hmm.
Um, uh, she works on her computer as well, so obviously we had to share the time, and obviously she got more time on the computer than I wanted her to have. Uh, I would I would use when she went to bed.
Yeah.
I would pretend to go to bed, and then as she went to bed and I thought she was asleep, I'd wake up, go downstairs, play for an hour or two, then go back to sleep maybe at 12:30, and I'd wake up at 4 o'clock before school every day and play some games downstairs on the computer. And then, and then after they did this, about a month or two later, the teacher's like, "Why is he so tired every time he goes to school?" And she's like, "I don't know." So,
Oh wow.
so it did work for me when I was younger, but I don't know if I could do the same thing now.
Doesn't work now. Oh man, that's a great story. That brings back memories. I did something similar, but I did it with WoW because my parents got mad at me for playing WoW, so I would wait till they go to bed. I do something very similar where I would raid with friends, but I'd have to wait. I'm East Coast, and I would play on a West Coast server, so 3 hour difference.
Yeah.
I'd wait till they go to bed. I'd get on the computer and I'd start raiding. But the problem is the way our house is set up. Their door to their bedroom and the bathroom were separate. So
Yeah.
they would sometimes go to the bathroom and the door would the computer room was right next to the bedroom and the bathroom. So if I wasn't careful, they could see the computer screen light when they were walking out. So if I heard any noise like on the other side of the door, I'd have to shut off the monitor really quick and dive under the desk and hope they didn't walk over. And normally I got away with it. Normally it was okay.
I had something again that's also something. I lived in one place,
Yeah.
and it was like a sort of horseshoe sort of shape. I was like on the middle. I'm trying to like draw this out with my finger. I was on the middle section, so there was the two parts of the house that branched off like that, and I was
Yeah.
kind of in the middle. And I would game until 7 or 8 in the morning quite happily, and obviously by 6:30, maybe 7, my mother would be awake, and it would still be dark. And she would go to the loo on her part of the building, and she would see my monitor. At the beginning, I had my lights on. She says, "I could see you. Your lights were on. You were playing games." I was like, "God damn it!" So the next night, I would turn my lights off and shout, "I saw your monitor's light on. You were playing games." I was like, "I can't hide it." And yeah, so the stresses you go through in your youth just to play games. But
Just
in fairness, my mother was actually very lenient, so I can't really complain that much. I played, yeah, it would have easily been 12 to 16 hours a day for me, so. Mm.
damn, that's a lot of gaming.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well done. Well, to wrap it up, we do have the final four. But before we do the final four, um, actually, I have another question. I was about to ask you about what you're looking forward to the rest of your what you want to do. But before that, I need to ask you what you do when you're not gaming. What your hobbies are.
My hobbies?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things I do revolve being around the computer, so I've got a lot of most of my friends will be online now, and what's even cooler is most of my friends online now I've probably met. I'm in a flat at the moment, and last September I moved in with 2 Quakers and some random person, and so to me, I like obviously spending time with my close friends. That I'm not really one who likes to go out drinking huge amounts anymore, and going to the pub and talking to your friends about how hilariously drunk you were 2 weekends ago. I mean I'll do that maybe uh, from time to time. I'll go out for a drink. I don't like clubs. I don't like commercial music in clubs.
Mm.
I'd much rather go to the pub. But as well as that, spend time with the girlfriend. And just go outside. I like being outside. And before I was in university, I had access to a car. I had my own car. I love just driving around. To me, I just going from A to B, whatever it is, even if I'm just going to the post office or something, I love just going for a drive. So, but everything else is really computer related, to be honest.
Is there anything computer related or not that you haven't done yet, but you'd really like to get a chance to if you can find the time? Something you need to do, maybe? Meaning to try?
I mean, I used to play music a lot, and I kind of ditched that. That's something I want to do in a long-term future. I also used to play poker a lot, which is also something I want to catch up with, but down the road. So those are things I can imagine. I'm in my mid-40s or mid-50s. I'm going to my local pub, and I'm playing with some generic rock and blues band, and just having a good Friday night every week. So I can imagine that's what I'd do when I'm retired, for example. But Yeah, and playing maybe local poker tournaments or something. Um, as for things I want to do, I want to. I don't know. I think all the goals I've set myself so far, I've kind of managed to get to. So I'm setting more goals, and my goals really at the moment are quite simple: get through university, impress people, and get a good job.
It's a good goal.
That's
Good
really
goals to
it.
have.
Mm.
Good goals to have. Um, well, so let's talk about goals. Let's end with goals. Looking to the second half of this year, and maybe into next year, um, both related to Quake and then just for yourself. What would you like to accomplish in the short term?
What would I like to oh wait, in esports or in general? Sorry.
Both, both. Maybe start with
Um,
esports.
in esports, uh, I don't know. I want to be. It's even tough to start a sentence. I don't know. I want to feel like I want to be valued, and I want to feel like if I'm going to work with someone, I'm going to bring value to them, and I want to maybe recognize that I'm capable of working with them. I want some credibility if anything, but other than that, I don't really ask for much from esports because as I said, I'm going with the flow. I'm still doing my degree at the moment. If given too much responsibility, then we'll probably have to reject it. Um,
Right.
even though that doesn't mean don't give me anything to do. Give me stuff to do. Um, but I don't want to be in a position where sort of, Total Biscuit, DJ Wheat, Too Good are right now, where they are 100% their world is esports and stuff. I can't commit to something like that
Right.
for a couple of years from now. And it's something I could see myself potentially doing instead of a full-time career if my opportunities lead me that way.
I accidentally opened your mail. I apologize. I knew it, Bill, so I've been nothing for my hand.
That's fun. Thank you. That was my landlord. But now everyone has heard my landlord. I don't think he actually showed up on screen, but now you've heard my landlord. He
Nice.
has a beautiful British accent that I'm very jealous of. But all right, sorry for the interrupt. My apologies.
No worries.
And I'm trying to recollect where we left off before I completely
I
lost track.
was telling you about what I was doing about
Right.
esports
About esports and not wanting to commit 100% because you still got university to.
yeah, I just that needs to be in the conscious part of my brain where I'm not whether I am thinking about it. I need to remember it's there, and and that's really it.
And let's do the final four. We've got
Uh-oh.
movies, music, books, food. Before we do that, real quick, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat. Or chat if you have questions, put them in chat, and we'll get them asked. We'll probably ask them in about 10 minutes. This interview is gonna go a little bit over, but not too much. Trying to keep it to an hour. I feel bad about saying no, we're gonna do an hour, and then it ends up being an hour and a half. So.
That's fine. I think a few of the people watching were actually watching my stream yesterday, so maybe I've already answered their questions. I don't know.
I mean, we've talked about it. We've covered a lot of bases, but sometimes
Yeah.
people have more specific questions that I wouldn't know to ask or that I've completely skipped over. But for now, let's start with the final four, and we'll see what we're left with.
Sure.
Let's go with movies first. Favorite movies or a
My
favorite.
favorite movie. You told me this before we started, and I was trying to think of it, and I can't remember the bleeding name. It was.
What happens? What happens in the movie?
It was like some kind of whole conspiracy government thing, and it was a book, and then it became a film, but
Recent?
no, old.
Oh,
It's like 10 years old at least. But I mean, what I watched recently was The Hunger Games. I think that came out this year, and I thought that was cool. I watched it on the plane going to QuakeCon, and
I still
that
need
was.
to see that. That was good. You'd recommend that?
I'd recommend The Hunger Games. Other films, I don't know. You know what? I've watched The Bourne Identity about 543 times now, because I just play 5 minutes of it, fall asleep to it. The next night I play another 5 minutes, fall asleep to that, and it was literally okay, you can't sleep, just put The Bourne Identity on. It will soothe you. But no, for me, the Bourne series is amazing, and I'm looking forward to the Bourne Legacy, I think it's called.
Mhm.
So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing. I saw it on the plane, and I was like, yes, I can see it. And then I realized it was the director's cuts or something like that. I was like, why are they showing this before it's even released? But yeah, that's for me for movies, really.
I can't believe that would put you to sleep, though. That's crazy. How could that?
It's some kind of bizarre tranquilizer.
Well, okay, let's turn to music. Favorite bands, favorite group, maybe a song or two from them.
I honestly don't have a favorite artist because I would say I'm quite open and I like lots of artists, but I definitely like Burial recently is one that comes to mind. I like Feed Me. I mean, those are some electronic artists, but there are so many songs I could name that I'm totally in love with. But I guess I think I could highlight with Manu Chao.
Okay.
And then I said the other two already. I'm going to quickly see what's on my list. It's actually open right now.
It's fine by me.
B Complex is good. Voice Cop's good. Gorillas are good. And Mount Eden's good. Then you've got things like RJD2. I really like RJD2. I mean, I like a bit of hip hop, trance, techno, general like drum and bass, raga, reggae. I really like anything. I even like some indie. Just I'm not a big fan of the whole, the Rihanna type.
Yeah.
Jay-Z. I'm classical music I can listen to, but it's also not my cup of tea as such. Yeah, so I mean, music. I just recommend those artists that I've named at the moment. And if I can put music on my streams often, then definitely go to my stream because what I used to do is put lots of music on my streams, and I get lots of comments about what is your music. So if you're fond of electronic music and other stuff, then yeah, check it out.
Place to go. I always love the Final Four. I get to learn new movies, new music, new books, new food to go try out. It's always fantastic. It's stuff I wouldn't even think to look for, and then I talk with someone like you, and you say go check out B Complex. I've never heard of B Complex, and I go listen, and I'm like, wow, this is how the fuck didn't I know about this before? This is fantastic. So I'm gonna go give it a listen as soon as it finishes. Anything in particular from you'd recommend? Well, from not even B Complex or like.
Well, B Complex. It is just the letter B dash complex.
Okay.
I think songs like they should be right here. Yeah, things like "Beautiful Lies" is their biggest song, which I think Mount Eden copied the name of one, and then "Winter" is also good in my opinion. But I mean, B Complex is a type of artist where they, you can. Every time you're going to listen to a song of them, you kind of know what to expect, and it's always at a level where it's adequate and listenable to.
Perfect. Just my kind of music. I like music I can listen to. Do you read much? Do you have a favorite book?
No, I haven't read a book since I was 12, so.
What did you read when you were 12? Did you like it?
It was probably the fifth Harry Potter, my last book. Yeah, I'm not even joking. That was.
Stop! You didn't read the last two?
How many were there in total?
There were 7 in total.
Oh, 7 in total. No, I didn't. I watched the films though, and I liked the films. Speaking of films now,
there you go. Yeah.
What other books? Honestly, the books I usually, if I would pick up a book, it would be a how-to book of some sort. It'd be something that was written for the purpose of teaching a skill immediately, rather than I'm not so good at reading fictional stuff. I'll read all my garbage on the internet, and I'm happy with that.
There's no shortage on the internet.
Yeah.
I guess it's the biggest book you've got.
Precisely.
Well, what about food? Let's end with food. Favorite food, favorite dish.
Favorite dish. Well, I could pretend to sound really interesting and say that half of me is from a southern French sort of background, and the whole Mediterranean, fruits de mer and things like that but honestly, I'm not hugely fussed. I like a great steak. I like meals that are that there's some kind of structure to, because I'm so used to eating. I'll get my dinner, even when I was home, I'd get my dinner and I'll just put it on my lap and eat at the computer and maybe go raiding at the same time or something on World of Warcraft. But when I have the chance to appreciate food, I really like a good curry. I used to work in an Indian takeaway. I used to work in pubs next to Indian restaurants and work for them. So I like to feel I know quite a lot about Indian food, or at least enough to know what I like.
Right.
Yeah. So I definitely, if you've got a good curry house on your road, then I'd definitely go there and ask for recommendations, because lots of people go for the chicken korma. People who are scared of trying new things. I'll go for the korma because it's not spicy, and a lot of people, I don't know about the USA, but in Britain everyone knows what it is and they know what they're getting, and it's not going to bite, and it's not suddenly going to come up with you with some interesting tastes and scare you.
Right.
But if you really go out there, get Rogan Josh, Jalfrezis, and DPSs, Baltis, Booners, and various other types of curries you get, then there's lots of amazing tastes in that. But I also very much like Mediterranean sort of food as well, in general.
Oh, so hungry now. I don't know why we always ask that question every week, because it always leaves me hungry. Everyone we've had on the show seems to love food. Go figure. So we always get I mean, like, I really want Indian food.
I never realized I even liked food until you asked me that question.
Well, you sound. I mean, I surprised me, because you sound like you love food. You sound like especially when you say, you sound like an expert on Indian food. And I'm gonna have to, next time I have a chance to go to an Indian place, I might ask for. Well, I'll definitely ask for recommendations from them, but I might have to check in with you to see what's your favorite.
Just find me on Skype, and I'll give you a list of a few. And
Perfect. Perfect.
It's weird though, because depending on the part of India you're from, the names are spelt slightly differently or pronounced slightly differently. So I'll go to one Indian place, I was like, hey, they've spelt this wrong, and then I realized no, it's just some cultural differences that I completely let go over my head. And yeah, so you have to watch out for that if you're going to different curry houses, because they do name things differently. But other than that.
We have two questions to wrap up with, and then we'll do shout-outs. Shanza, I'm just going to say Shanza. I know I said Shanzier earlier, but I'm sorry. Shanza wants to know, how much money would it take for you to drop out of university and go esports full-time? Is there a particular number in your head?
A number? No, it wouldn't have to be. It would have to be sort of. I wouldn't want one lump sum and then that's it. I'll go into esports. I'd want a guarantee. If I had to go into esports full time, I want a guaranteed the kind of wage I'd be expected to get after I go out of university, and I want to be guaranteed work for a number of years. So it would be more than just money. I'd need the security of that money being there for a long period of time, and that's something that a degree can do, but unless I'm really, really fortunate in esports, there's nothing that's likely to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, Sandra was pointing out, and I apologize for that. Obviously talking about salary. Like what sort of salary would you be looking at?
I mean, at least, what currency do you want me to talk in?
Whichever you're most comfortable. We'll do the math in our heads.
All right. I'm not comfortable with any, but let's talk euros.
Okay. Well, let's work with euros.
I'll say, man, at least I think 30K a year. That would be sort of the bare minimum that I'd go with, unless I had, unless it was like 30K and benefits and stuff like that. I'd do that kind of thing, but I would need quite a lot to make me drop out of university.
Huh.
I would if I finish university, I would probably work for a bit less, because I know that I've got my degree to back me up now. But if it's gonna force me out of uni, it's gonna have to be a pretty good offer.
Okay, well, can I ask you sort of real quick to follow up? If you got, say you got that 30K with benefits offered to you for esports, and then at the same time you got an offer from I don't know, Intel, I don't know, for 50K, would you take the 50K over the 30K, or would you still stay in esports?
Does that mean if I took the 50K, I wouldn't be allowed to compensate still in the way I do? I I mean, would I be
It would-
sacrificing lots of privileges?
You wouldn't be able to do it full time.
Okay.
It would sort of be.
I'd
now
definitely
we
take
do
the
on the
30.
side.
If it meant that I could do esports full time, I'd definitely take the 30K without blinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as it meets basic requirements for you and you can get by, you can live and have, roof over your
I
head,
can live.
food on your town, you want to pursue esports.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Question from, as I'm trying to read this name and I'm failing terribly, CHC1PALC? Oh, PAK. I don't know why it's
PAK, I think.
PAK. Would you like to see a new, genuine Quake game? And why? Yes or no?
I don't know if a new Quake game would be enough, is the thing.
Hmm.
I would like to, but the thing is, id Software doesn't need to prove that it can make a good game. It needs to prove that it can sell a good game and it can market that good game. Because it's already got a good game, it's just not got the features it has to keep it. But yeah, I think a Quake game would bring a lot of hype with the added, it's being released and the immediate attention it gets when games are just released. I think that would be good, but if they can do all the things they need to keep that immediate attention as long-term attention, then yeah, I would like to see a new Quake game.
And to close, would you like to do any shout-outs?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to Adroits. They've just picked me up and they're doing some stuff. Actually a shout out to Level Up TV because I've been with them for 8 months or so, and they really helped me get on my feet in casting and in Quake, and they really helped put me in front of everyone basically. I recently left them and Adroits picked me up, so big thanks to Sean who's watching and Adroits for picking me up, and also the Good Studio because they're also helping me out a bit, and yeah, just lots of people as well. I'm not going to name every name in the book because I'd like to thank a lot of people because I obviously didn't get to this position without them, and I'm sure I've forgotten something absolutely massive here.
Well, while you think about it, can I ask you real quick?
Sure.
For anyone who's maybe listening to this or who's regularly tuned in the show because we don't want to do StarCraft and is interested in getting into Quake or interested in watching, getting in the competitive scene, how would you recommend they go about doing it? Like, if you want to, is there a particular video or a match you'd recommend, or?
Oh, some video to recommend? Whoa. Oh, there's some really good ones. I mean, to be honest, the QuakeCon finals that we just had between Dahang and Cypher, that was really good. But if you like the 1v1 game type, then oh man, there's so much stuff. There's the Cypher versus Kilson at God, I can't remember. It could be one of the IEMs. There's also Cooler versus Cypher Grand Final at IEM 4 maybe.
Okay.
Honestly, there's so much stuff. All you have to do is you type into YouTube, Quake Live Grand Final, just Quake Live Grand Final, and it will come up with the most popular searches, or just filter it so that it comes up with the most popular ones. And there are some awesome games on there. I couldn't name all of them because there are really a bunch of them which inspired me to stick with the community and stick with the game because some of it is really mesmerizing.
Perfect. Well, there you go. Everyone can go check that out as soon as this finishes. We'll wrap up right now. But before we do that, people who want to watch you, who want to follow you, who want to see what you do and actually get a chance to see you in action, where do they go?
You go to www.twitch.tv/ZootLive. They can also get on my Twitter because I'm always posting random stuff about esports and what I'm doing. So that's twitter.com/ZootLive. And also Adroits because I'm going to be on their channel periodically. So their Twitter for them is twitter.com/AdroitsTweet. AdroitsTweets, yeah. And facebook.com/Adroits, and also their Twitch account, which is where the big cups are going to be coming from, and I think the LAN event in October for Quake Live is going to come from. That's twitch.tv/AdroitsTV. That's ADROITS TV. So those are the two kind of platforms that you're probably going to see me mostly on at the moment. But the Good Studio, check it out. He does a lot for Quake as well.
Wonderful. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned, haven't touched on in the second half that you'd like to say?
I think I feel comfortable that we've covered everything. I mean, I'm sure in an hour I'm gonna sort of Skype you and go like, can you just edit this in somehow? And I think I'm done.
Well, if something like that comes up, then we'll get you back on and we'll do another hour. We'll find a way. I'm sure we can put another hour and we can come back and maybe talk about recent tournaments. We'll find something. We'll make it out. We'll get you back.
Bring me back in like 4 years, and maybe I'll still be in esports, and I'll have something more to say about myself.
There we go. Then I can really ask you about esports in the professional world and what you're planning to do, and we'll get you. We'll get you back.
Interesting things to say then.
There you go. All right, we got you booked 4 years from now.
Awesome.
Perfect. Xavier, thank you so much for coming on. I apologize for butchering your name, both first and last.
It's fine.
But it's still it's again, obviously, I think anyone who has watched most of the show knows that, or it's become very obvious that I'm not that knowledgeable about Quake. I still have a passing knowledge, and so it's been really cool to sort of get at, because I hear it all the time, especially in StarCraft, because with DJ Wheat constantly, well, not constantly, but often referencing Quake and referencing the community and the competitive scene and how wonderful and great it is, and I've always sort of wanted to talk with someone about what makes it so great, what's so brilliant about Quake, and so it was really nice to have a chance to sit down and talk to you about Quake Live, about Quake, about where it's headed and what makes it awesome, and why you're involved and all those good things. So I will shut up now and we'll let people scoot out. Next week, I think we're going to be talking to someone else about CS 1.6, I believe. I think we are talking about Counter-Strike, so we're going to stay FPS. But we'll give you guys final information about that sometime middle of this week, probably. And again, 4 years from now, we've decided we're going to get Xavier back. And we'll check in with him again, hopefully before then.
I'll remember, 2016, the beginning of August.
Yes.
We've got a date, son.
We have a date. We'll catch back up with you, and maybe even, I hope, hopefully in between then. Maybe somewhere 2 years? 2 years, tentatively, we'll set it 2 years?
We can negotiate terms, yeah.
All right. So tentatively 214, definitely 216.
Yeah.
That sounds good. All right. Thank you to everyone who's watched and kept with us and sat through my bumbling. I appreciate it as always. Have a good evening, guys.